Have you ever imagined that a single phone call, answered quietly, almost by accident, could change your entire destiny? Zara Mitchell had no idea her life was about to flip upside down that ordinary Thursday morning. At 29 years old, Zara was a cleaning lady at the Grand Marquis Hotel, a glittering palace of marble and gold, home to billion-dollar deals and luxury that most could only dream of. But behind the polished floors she mopped and the rooms she meticulously cleaned hid a mind and spirit far from ordinary. That morning, as Zara knelt scrubbing the spotless lobby floor near the grand staircase, a soft buzz in her pocket startled her. She glanced quickly around, no guest close enough to notice, and saw the screen light up. It was a call from the University of Amsterdam. She knew exactly what this meant. For years, Zara had fought tooth and nail for a scholarship to their prestigious International Linguistics Master's program. She had sent application after application, only to be met with silence or rejection. This call could change everything. Heart pounding, she edged behind an ornate marble pillar, shielding herself from the eyes of passing guests. Whispering under her breath in flawless Dutch, she answered, "Zara Mitchell." On the other end was Professor van der Hoorn, the head of linguistics at Amsterdam, speaking crisply in Dutch. Their conversation flowed effortlessly. Zara explaining that her motivation letter had been delayed in the mail, the professor assuring her that they would find a way to make things right. For a moment, the noisy lobby seemed to fall away. Zara's voice was the only sound as she spoke fluidly, her Dutch impeccable, her tone calm and confident despite the stakes. Then, through the silence, she caught a sharp movement out of the corner of her eye. Richard Coleman, the billionaire hotel owner himself, stood a mere 5 feet away, his eyes locked onto her with undisguised surprise. Next to him stood Mr. Harris, the hotel manager notorious for his iron-fisted rules and blatant discrimination. His lips curled into a sneer as he watched Zara, silently furious. The realization hit Zara like a cold wave. She quickly ended the call, mumbling an apology in Dutch. "Ik moet gaan. I must go," and slipped the phone back into her pocket. Before she could move, Harris barked out, "Mitchell, my office. Now." The hallways felt colder than ever as Zara followed him down the dim stairwell to the basement office, every step heavy with dread. Colleagues passed by, some with looks of pity, others barely masking smirks. 6 years. 6 long years of scrubbing floors, cleaning rooms, carrying the weight of a degree no one here seemed to care about. Once inside the cramped office, Harris wasted no time. "You know the rules, Mitchell," he spat. "No phones during work hours, especially in the lobby." Zara met his gaze steadily. "That was Dutch," she said quietly. "A call from the university." He sneered. "I don't care if it was Martian. What I care about is that Mr. Coleman saw you talking on your phone, ignoring your duties." Zara's chest tightened. The irony wasn't lost on her. The white receptionist took personal calls all the time, often laughing loudly, never punished. Harris continued, voice dripping venom. "You're reassigned. Convention center bathrooms. 3 months, no overtime." Zara's heart sank. The convention center shifts meant backbreaking work, no chance of promotion, and a clear message. "You don't belong here." That night, in her tiny, worn apartment she shared with 2 exhausted nurses, Zara stared at her framed linguistics degree on the cracked wall, a silent testament to dreams deferred. 6 years of being invisible. 6 years of waiting. The next morning, Zara arrived early, determined to prove herself despite the humiliation. Then a call from the front desk shattered her routine. "Zara Mitchell, Human Resources wants to see you immediately." The elevator ride to the top floor, past glass walls and suited executives, was a passage into the unknown. When Zara stepped into the HR office, the director's voice was steady, almost unreadable. "Mr. Coleman requests your presence in his office. Now." The door to Coleman's office seemed impossibly large. Inside sat the man himself, a titan of industry, known for turning struggling hotels into fortunes. He looked up and spoke without preamble. "Dutch, French, Italian, Mandarin, correct?" Zara blinked, stunned. "How did you—" "I asked HR for your resume after hearing you speak yesterday." Zara's mind raced. This was no coincidence. Behind the simple phone call in Dutch was a storm gathering, a reckoning about to unfold. For the first time in years, Zara felt a spark of hope flicker in her chest. Could this be the moment everything changed? Richard Coleman's gaze was steady as he closed the folder in front of him. The weight of the moment hung thick in the air. "You've been cleaning my hotels for 6 years," he said quietly. "And yet you hold a linguistics degree from Georgetown University. Why are you cleaning bathrooms instead of working in international relations?" Zara took a slow, steadying breath. "I sent out 47 resumes over the years to your international relations department," she said, voice calm but firm. "I requested internal transfers a dozen times, all denied, always by Mr. Harris and Mr. Whitmore, the director of operations." Coleman scribbled those names in his notebook without a flicker of surprise. Whitmore had often complained about the lack of multilingual staff to serve the hotel's international clientele, especially for the growing number of Asian and European conferences they hosted. Coleman's voice lowered. "3 months ago, I commissioned a consulting firm to investigate the high turnover rates among qualified, non-white employees at our East Coast hotels." Zara's heart quickened. Was this the start of real change? Coleman continued. "Tomorrow there's a major trade conference with Dutch and Chinese executives arriving. I need someone fluent in both languages, who understands cultural nuances. And you want me to clean their rooms?" A bitter laugh escaped Zara's lips. "Exactly." Coleman cracked a brief smile. "I want you to be our international relations coordinator for the event. Temporarily, salary $5,000 a week, starting today." The words hit Zara like a thunderbolt. That was more than she earned in 3 months of cleaning shifts. "Why me?" she asked, skepticism still ringing in her voice. "Because I heard you speaking Dutch like a native yesterday," Coleman answered. "Because you have the qualifications I need, and because I suspect there's something very wrong happening in my company." An hour later, Zara stepped into the elevator wearing a new badge. It granted her full access to hotel systems and executive floors, a world she'd never imagined she'd enter. As she strode past the stunned faces of her former supervisors, she ran into Harris. The shock on his face was priceless. "Zara, what are you doing on this floor without your uniform?" "I'm the International Relations Coordinator," she said, tone clipped but professional. "At Mr. Coleman's direct request." Harris stammered. There was nothing left to say. In the HR office, Zara met Zoe Williams, a newly hired recruitment analyst who had quietly admired Zara's qualifications for months. "I saw your file when I started," Zoe confessed. "Couldn't understand why someone with your skills was stuck in housekeeping." Zara confided, "I tried to talk to Whitmore, but he shut me down every time." The next afternoon, Zara discovered disturbing errors in the Mandarin translations prepared for the conference documents. Mistakes that could have led to severe diplomatic misunderstandings. She worked late into the night, correcting and redesigning the welcome materials with precision. "How did you know they were wrong?" Coleman asked, quietly observing her dedication. "The translator knew the basics, but lacked cultural knowledge," Zara explained. "It was a costly mistake." Coleman nodded gravely. On the conference's first day, Zara glided among international executives with ease, switching effortlessly between Dutch and Mandarin. She bridged cultural gaps and facilitated conversations that would have otherwise taken days. Whitmore, the man who had ignored her for 6 years, approached during a break. "Miss Mitchell, I'm impressed," he said, forcing a smile. "Clearly Harris misjudged your potential." Zara replied coolly, "Funny how my fluency in Mandarin was overlooked, even as the hotel wasted $50,000 on faulty translations." Whitmore's smile froze. What he didn't know was that Zara had access to contract records showing that the translation company was owned by his niece, Ashley Whitmore, a woman with no formal qualifications but charging exorbitant fees. Every previous translation contained critical errors, mistakes that could have cost the company millions. On the third day, a Dutch businessman recognized Zara. "Wait, aren't you the linguist who wrote that article on linguistic variation in international business?" Zara nodded, surprised. "I've cited your work at 2 conferences," he said, beckoning colleagues to meet her. Coleman watched silently from a distance, noting Whitmore's growing discomfort. Behind the scenes, Zara was assembling evidence of widespread discrimination, nepotism, and corruption. A toxic system that kept talented employees like her invisible and powerless. While many executives remained clueless, Zara was weaving a web of truth that threatened to upend the entire hotel empire. She realized that her journey from cleaning floors to commanding boardrooms was only beginning. The Grand Marquis Hotel was alive with energy on the morning of the conference's fourth day. The buzz wasn't just from the high-profile international meetings underway. It was the quiet storm of change building beneath the surface. Zara Mitchell had already transformed from the invisible maid into a pivotal figure. Her initiative to correct the faulty translations and her seamless mediation among Dutch and Chinese business executives had generated preliminary contracts surpassing all expectations. But Zara's sharp eyes caught something unsettling. Thomas Whitmore, the director of operations and architect of her long suppression, was escorting a nervous young woman carrying folders stamped Final Translation Master Contract toward the executive elevators. Zara's pulse quickened as she glimpsed the documents. The same critical errors she had painstakingly corrected earlier were back, present in the new versions. Something was very wrong. She hurried to Richard Coleman's office, documents in hand. "Mr. Coleman, Whitmore is replacing my corrected translations with flawed versions done by his niece, Ashley," Zara said, voice steady but urgent. She swiped through screenshots on her phone as proof. Coleman rose abruptly, eyes hardening. "Are you absolutely sure?" "Yes, and I have everything documented." At that moment, an HR assistant burst into the room, holding a thick folder. "Sir, these hiring records from the last 5 years, there's a consistent pattern of rejecting qualified non-white candidates, and especially women." Coleman's face darkened as he flipped through the pages. "This isn't just negligence. This is systemic." Before Zara could respond, the office door slammed open. Whitmore entered, his expression defiant. "I don't know what you're talking about," he snapped. "We hire the best people." Coleman calmly placed a printed email on the desk, confirming that Ashley Whitmore's certification in Mandarin was fake. "This niece of yours is unqualified, charging inflated rates." Whitmore's gaze turned venomous. "You're nobody," he sneered at Zara. "Just a cleaning lady pretending to play with the big boys." Zara held his gaze coolly. "PhD in Applied Linguistics from Georgetown with 6 international publications. My qualifications are in the HR files. Your excuses won't hold." Coleman slammed his palm on the desk. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting in 30 minutes. By then, I want your resignation letter on my desk." Whitmore laughed nervously, but Coleman's glare silenced him. 2 hours later, the hotel's executive auditorium was packed. Managers, supervisors, and directors filled the seats, whispers rippling through the crowd. On the stage stood Coleman and Zara side by side. "Today," Coleman began, voice resonant, "we reveal a scheme of discrimination and nepotism that has cost this company millions and destroyed the careers of talented employees." Behind them, a presentation displayed charts and graphs, hiring statistics by race and gender, records of inflated contracts, and detailed comparisons of employee qualifications versus job roles. Zara's name flashed on the screen, but this time it was alongside titles of Global Director and Coordinator, a symbol of justice long overdue. "For years, managers like Thomas Whitmore and Sarah Harris have enforced unofficial policies harming employees and our company's bottom line," Coleman declared. "Miss Mitchell saved us from a diplomatic disaster by correcting translation errors that would have damaged our reputation and finances." Applause erupted from the crowd, hesitant at first, then growing into a standing ovation. The cleaning staff, many wiping tears, were among the loudest. From the back of the room, Harris sat pale and defeated, staring at the floor. Coleman smiled slightly. "Effective immediately, Thomas Whitmore has been terminated for cause. Sarah Harris is suspended pending investigation. We are launching a full audit of hiring and promotion practices over the last 5 years." Security personnel escorted Whitmore from the room, his face twisted in rage. He muttered threats as he passed Zara, but she met his glare with a serene smile. In her pocket, a discreet recording device had captured every racist whisper and threat he made, evidence for the future. That night, in her spacious new office overlooking the city skyline, Zara allowed herself to cry. But these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of catharsis and triumph. 6 years of struggle, rejection, and invisibility were washing away. Her phone rang. It was her mother, the woman who had worked as a maid, sacrificed everything for Zara's education, yet never lived to see her daughter's rise. "I did it, Mom," Zara whispered, voice trembling. "I finally did it." Months passed. The hotel chain launched the Invisible Talents Program, a groundbreaking initiative to identify and promote employees with hidden skills, especially from minority groups. Within 6 months, 147 employees were elevated to roles matching their true capabilities. Diversity ratings soared, translation outsourcing costs dropped by 78%, and customer satisfaction climbed. Zara's new role as Vice President of Diversity and International Relations gave her a platform to reshape an entire industry. Even Sarah Harris, spared firing but stripped of power, was transferred to manage laundry services at a low-tier property, a daily reminder of her misjudgments. Rumors swirled about Whitmore's fate, now tarnished by accusations of corruption and discrimination. No luxury hotel would hire him again. One afternoon, Zara received a letter and postcard from Amsterdam, an invitation to serve as a visiting professor of applied linguistics at the university where it all began. Smiling, she mused, "I owe it all to Harris, really. If she'd only warned me instead of punishing me, maybe I'd still be cleaning the same rooms." The day after, Zara announced a scholarship fund to support hotel employees and their children, seeded partly by her salary. The first beneficiary was the daughter of a former cleaning colleague who dreamed of studying hotel management. What started as a quiet phone call in Dutch had sparked a revolution that rippled far beyond one hotel, shaking the foundations of an entire industry. In her keynote speech to thousands of employees, Zara said, "Talent is everywhere. The real barrier isn't ability, it's opportunity. True justice means tearing down systems that hide brilliance in the shadows and rebuilding a future where everyone's worth is recognized." Her story was a powerful lesson. True greatness is not about fighting alone. It's about opening doors for those who come after. And with that, the Grand Marquis and its entire chain embraced a new era, one where invisible talents were finally seen, heard, and celebrated.